Good Morning Liberty.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston, and over there putting his hood up is Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson. How's it going today, Chuck?
Hans Chuck.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Your headphone wire is kind of distracting right there, but
I see that.
yeah, it's kind of tough to do that when you're wearing that.
But nowadays.
Anyway, this is Good Morning Liberty. We talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of meaning every single day of the week. And also want to remind everyone that
When we want to.
When we want to. Did I not say that?
No, you didn't.
Wow.
You just said every day of the week, trying to hold us to some kind of standard.
We have been on a streak lately, though.
Yeah, you're trying to.
I don't want to mention it, but we've been on a bit of a streak.
I know, and if you say we do it every day, then there's going to come a time where we don't, and now you're holding us to some kind of
letting people down after that.
Exactly.
I know.
You know.
Also, March 1st and 2nd, we are going to be at the Tennessee Libertarian Party State Convention in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'll put a link in the show notes. We're going to be doing a panel discussion. I don't remember the name of it, but it concerns the death of the mainstream media, something like that. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So if you live within like a 12-hour driving distance, come and hang out with us.
12 to 24 hours.
No excuse.
Yeah.
No excuse. Okay.
Those on the left coast probably, wouldn't make it.
Yeah, that would take a bit.
But shoot, if you're in Colorado.
Honestly, if you start now, though, I mean, you'll be there early.
Yeah.
So there's really no excuse.
Or take a plane. I hear they're safe and quick.
Yeah, planes are fine. Nothing wrong with planes. Okay, we got a few things to talk about today. RFK Jr. was
Another
confirmed.
Nominee you didn't think would be confirmed has made it through the confirmation process.
To be fair, I don't want any misinformation getting out there. I said out of the three contentious candidates, Cash, RFK, and Tulsi, that I thought we would get two out of the three, and we settled on the least likely one probably being Tulsi. And so we got Tulsi, and then we got RFK. Mitch McConnell was the only Republican to not vote for either one of those two.
He's going to be out.
All the other, I mean, sure, God's going to take care of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty much going to happen. So he's in. Here's what that sounded like, I think.
Left hand on the Bible and raise your right. I, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
I, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
All right, so just in case you wanted to know what that sounded like, that's what that was.
It was a bit quiet.
Yeah. He finished the whole thing, by the way. There's a longer clip, so he did go through the entire oath. Could be good. I don't really know what to expect from it. There are things I agree with, I guess, and there are things that I disagree with, I guess.
It's a little scary when a Kennedy's in government.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully he gets some extra security detail.
Could be bad. We'll see what he actually does. There are things that he's said in the past or that have been mentioned that I probably will not agree with. But we'll see what he actually does, and then we will talk about those things. And if we agree with him, we'll say that. If we disagree with him, we'll say that. That is our promise to you guys.
But for sure, we're going to say that.
We will say that.
THAT.
Either way, we'll say that. So, okay, we've got the RFK thing. We potentially, Charlie's got to go pick up his kid, just so you guys know they're listening right now. So we're going to, breeze through a few things here. I wanted to do a little bit of, we've been talking Doge every day, which we do have some Doge stuff here. Something interesting on the economic front that I've noticed.
I got to tell you, it's hard to keep up.
I know, there's so many things
tough
happening.
To keep up. I showed you, real quick, I showed you Doge's new website. It's official.
I've got that pulled up.
Official government website. Great. I mean, there's just so much happening every day that it is difficult to keep up with if you're not in this 24/7.
Yeah, we're going to bring up the regulation thing that you showed earlier after we do a little bit of the media is going through an interesting transition right now as it pertains to economics. And so first off, a few days ago, I saw this article saying that Waffle House is passing along the sky-high cost of eggs to diners with a 50-cent surcharge. And, right when I see that headline, I'm like, okay, well, it makes sense. Eggs are expensive and they're passing along that cost. Wait a second. That's price gouging. And that's essentially what happened in my head right then. But now, what's interesting is the prices are not going up because corporations are price gouging. They're going up because the underlying costs of the inputs into your food are becoming very expensive. And so therefore they're having to raise their prices.
Interesting how that works.
Yeah. It's pretty weird stuff. So listen, eggs are really expensive right now. I'm getting annoyed by people who eggs are expensive enough. Do we have to lie about it though? Like they'll show you, I see these pictures going around and they're like, eggs are $14 and it's a picture of an 18 count cage free, pasture raised egg,
1,000 acres
chicken.
per chicken.
Yeah. That kind of thing. And like, that's the price that they're posting, and
this hen lives on a 1,000-acre farm, separated at least 1,000 acres between all of our hens.
And so my recommendation, the people,
no wonder that costs a lot of money. You got to walk 1,000 acres to each coop.
It takes a long time. I'm sure it's very expensive. But if the left wants to make a big point on this, they're not doing themselves any favors by lying about it or by using exaggerations or just lies, really, by using what they know are the most expensive eggs that you can buy.
The other thing you're pointing out, though, is that prior to Trump taking office, it was corporate greed.
Yeah.
If they raised their prices.
It wasn't any,
It was corporate greed, price gouging.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Trump is in office, all of a sudden we have all of these economists coming out saying, oh, well, the prices are higher because these corporations, they have to raise their prices.
They have to raise them because of the price of the goods.
Yeah.
They just have to.
How about that?
On top of that.
Surprised we don't have a Waffle House bill.
There was this great article in Politico that was
this is dumb.
Amazing.
This is Dumb Bleep of the Week.
This probably is in Dumb Bleep as well, but I wanted to make sure we could talk about it. So they're going through this shift right now, and you have to realize that in order for them to immediately talk about how terrible Trump's economy is, they have to first humble themselves.
No.
Before you.
They don't humble themselves.
That's what they're doing, though. They're saying, okay.
No, they're deviantly reversing the gaslighting they were portraying for the last 4 years.
I know, but they have to they have to disguise that as being like, oh, yeah, I guess we were wrong about that.
No, they weren't wrong. The data was wrong.
The data was wrong. It turns out we found a new way to look at the data. And it's there's a website called Shadow Stats.
We've been saying the whole time. We've been talking about this since the inflation when they started spending all the money, we started talking about this and about how the CPI isn't real. And we started talking about all these different things.
The unemployment rate, too. They bring up how the unemployment rate is not a good representation of unemployment in the economy for all the reasons that we all know about. So this article headline is, voters were right about the economy. The data was wrong. And so we all know that. We talked about this several times. We've cut several videos about this, that the people in the economy, you can tell them over and over again that the economy is great, that everything is fine. But we know better than that. Everyone knows better than that. We know that these numbers are lies. The way that they've decided to show you what CPI is a lie. The way they show you the unemployment rate is essentially a lie. And turns out they're going to come right out and say it. They mentioned Democrats being puzzled and that people were not accepting the economic reality. And it turns out that they were misrepresenting how strong that reality actually was. There's a few things that. They say what we uncovered shocked us. They decided to go through a new way of looking at the economic data. What we uncovered shocked us. The bottom line is that for 20 years or more, including months prior to the election, voter perception was more reflective of reality than the incumbent statistics. Our research revealed that data collected by various agencies is largely accurate. The people staffing those agencies are doing a great job. They're doing a fine job, okay? They're well-intentioned. but the filters that they use to give you those stats are flawed. And so they paint a much rosier picture than what the economy actually is. So they mentioned CPI. Charlie had to step out and take a phone call, by the way, so it's just me talking right now. Here I am, just hanging out in the room, talking to myself right now. And here comes Charlie now, back into the room right now. They mentioned CPI, they mentioned unemployment, and they mentioned wage statistics. The CPI thing was really interesting. You guys know about the unemployment rate. We mention it all the time, that if you stop looking for a job, you're not counted as unemployed anymore. Or
and they're just now realizing this. Here's the thing. The reason why I say this is deviant, is because they know this. They've known this.
Mm-hmm.
And they report on it anyway, knowing that they're lying to you. And now they're coming in this article lying to you, acting like they've never heard of this before. And it's such bullshit. It's lies.
They have to set up the picture now for them to be able to talk about how much worse the economy actually is, how terrible the economy actually is. So now they can come out and say, well, Trump's government data is painting actually a rosier picture of the economy than what people are actually experiencing. And while some of this government data, sure, those are the numbers, but that's not what the real people on the ground are experiencing. While just a few months ago, just a month before the election, they were telling you, people are believing misinformation about the economy. It's actually doing great. This is the best economy we've ever had.
Biden's economy.
The Biden economy is
Bidenomics.
the best. We are the envy of the world.
And I can't tell you how many times on the show that we talked about that people knew when they went to the grocery store that they were full of shit.
Yeah.
This is not, Bidenomics sucks.
Is it just
whatever?
People, it's just phone call time right now.
I don't
That's
know
all it
what
is.
is
What's
happening.
up with the phone calls?
I've had
She's
6
gonna
of
freak
them.
out when she's gonna hang up. Hey babe, what's up? How's it going? I'm recording the show right now.
Put her up to the microphone.
Are you okay? Okay. All right. I told everyone I was gonna answer it and see how you were doing. Do you want to say hi? Say hi real loud to everyone. Hi. Okay, I got a little bit in there. Just a little bit. Now you've been on the show. How do you feel about you famous? It's almost like you've been retweeted by Elon Musk. Yeah, it's pretty close.
She almost did her full girl hi. She went, hi. But it wasn't, hey.
No, but seriously, okay? Okay, can I call you back, or do you want me to shut the whole thing down? Okay.
By the way, everyone's saying hi.
Everyone in the group is saying hi to
yeah.
you too. Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you in a bit. Love you.
Oh, so sweet.
There we go. Okay.
She doesn't realize that that's going to keep you here longer.
I know. Set me back here a little bit. All right. They mentioned the CPI, and it's really interesting because we mentioned so many times that the CPI number we're given is not the actual CPI. And there's many reasons why it's not the actual CPI, but the reason that they throw out is that the CPI is a combination of 80,000 goods that they put into a basket. Now, I don't know about you. I've done some big grocery hauls in my time, but I don't know if I ever got 80,000 different things when I was going out there.
Almost.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm using 80,000 different things in my life, including the house and my car and my insurance and all that kind of stuff. I just don't think that that's the case. But it turns out different people in different situations use different parts of that 80,000 goods. And so if you're someone where a large portion of your income is going to groceries, for instance, then you're actually paying more attention to what the food CPI, that has a bigger weight in your basket than a bunch of the other things that you don't even have the money to go buy.
Honestly, I think we've got too many baskets.
Yeah.
Take away the baskets.
It's a big basket. It's a lot
CPI,
of stuff in that basket, man.
CPI will improve.
And on top of that, as we've told you guys before, they assume these substitutions inside of your basket to where if you're buying it, a lot of people find a brand of something that they're buying and you buy that. And I've noticed like that brand has gotten a lot more expensive. Well, they assume that you're going to switch to a different brand that's cheaper. What if you're someone who likes that brand of stuff?
Yeah, have you ever tried off-brand Pop-Tarts?
Yeah, exactly.
Disgusting.
What would that even be called?
Who eats those? I don't even know why they're on the shelf.
But they're cheaper, and they assume that's what you're going to buy, and so
Never.
therefore your Pop-Tart-flation has not been quite as much as what actual name brand
I'll
Pop-Tarts
be on
has
my
been.
last $4.50, and I tell you what, I'm going for the Pop-Tart branded Kellogg's.
It's just interesting.
Brown sugar and cinnamon.
The main point we had to make was, man, you don't hate the media enough. You just don't. They magically found a way now that they're going to start reporting on what the economy is actually like for people. They just figured this out. All these geniuses out there at Politico just now figured this out. Or have they known this the entire time and they were just trying to carry water for a certain administration, for a certain political party that they wanted to get elected? Does that mean we're good?
Yeah.
Is that what that means?
I don't
Okay.
have to leave.
All right. Go. Cool. I'm going to switch over to this Doge website real fast, and we'll talk a little bit about Doge. You should go to doge.gov, doge.gov, and click on the
It says
regulations
an official
tab.
website of the United States government.
It's .gov.
Look at that.
You know, I bet they probably didn't call. I bet Big Balls put this together pretty quick, though. I bet it didn't take any time at all. You know,
Within 5 minutes.
We say that as a joke, but this is probably around a $20 million website as far as the government goes that they put together in about a week for probably no money.
That's $20 per page.
So
do you see the graphics on this
there's
thing?
a lot of stuff in here. They have this thing called the Unconstitutionality Index. I like that. It's pretty good. 18.5, that's the number of agency rules created by unelected bureaucrats for each law passed in Congress.
On average.
And this is in 2024.
Oh, sorry.
And so we've got it per year here. Strikingly enough, 2016 actually, that was 2016 actually would have been the last year of Obama's term. So that's, yeah. And then actually the lowest one here was during one of Trump's years in 2019. How about that? But still pretty unconstitutionality-ish, if you ask me, when I look at that number. The Code of Federal Regulations is 98 million words. That's a lot of words. 215,000 sections of regulation.
And by the way, this is what is so tyrannical and criminal about our federal government. We've talked about it before on this show, but now we're actually seeing what the total data is. We've said before hundreds of thousands of pages of regulations in the healthcare sector and all these, the banking sector. We didn't really know how much of a monster this actually was, but when you read the words from the federal government as rules or regulations, it's synonymous with law.
It
is.
It is.
Because what can happen is that they will fine you, if you violate one of these regulations. And then if you don't pay the fine, then they can put you in a cage. It's the same thing as violating a law. There's just an extra step in there, fine.
Yeah.
But it literally, this massive apparatus has destroyed the lives of Americans. And it's just, and it's completely unrepresented. No one, you want to talk about not voting for something, no one voted for a single fucking word that they have put.
Can you imagine
in these list of regulations? 100 million words unvoted for.
You can imagine this actually, given your job that you've had. But imagine being a business in one of these industries, and you could pick something like the Department of Health and Human Services and realize that if you operate in that industry, there are 18,000 sections of regulation.
It's impossible.
Inside of this industry with over 7 million words, 18,000 sections of regulation that you have to comply with.
It's impossible.
If they are regulating you. 16,000 sections with 14 million words for the banking sector in the Department of the Treasury. EPA has 20,000 sections, 12 million words.
Disgusting.
How do you navigate? Imagine all the people that we are paying. I was going to say that they're paying for. We are paying for, because those are people that they have to pay to make sure that they are complying with all of these regulations. And so when you talk about the cost, I've heard it estimated that there's like $1 trillion in cost to our economy every year in just regulatory costs that businesses have to pay for, but we pay for it because we're the ones that give businesses their money.
As you just
That's where they get their money.
Waffle House is doing a 50-cent surcharge.
Exactly.
On the eggs because the cost of eggs went up. You don't think the cost of complying with government regulations increases the cost? This is why, because I understand the financial side of healthcare. I understand that literally probably at least half of your bill, at least, it's probably more, half of your bill from your when you go visit the doctor or go to the hospital is due to a health system trying to comply with regulations.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many meetings I have sat in where leaders of health organizations are talking with other leaders of health organizations, trying to figure out what they are doing with their teams to comply with the new regulations going into effect that were passed in 2016, but they go into effect in this year of our Lord 2024. Okay. And they've built all this technology and they have all these documents and all of this time and money and resources is going in just so they comply with these dumbass regulations. You don't think that as a patient, you're the one paying for that? You are. You're paying for it.
For every bit of
because the hospital, the healthcare organization has to account for those costs. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm in all these meetings all the time. I'm like, man, it must be really difficult to be a CFO of these like companies. Like, how do you put into your budget that we need to spend $10 million, over the next 4 years developing a program to comply with the latest regulations that are going into effect next year?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to earmark that $10 million because you got to pay all the people who are going to spend the time on it. You got to pay for the technology. You got to pay for people rewriting documentation. You got to pay for the training. You got to pay lawyers to make sure that if you mess up, that you can CYA, cover your own ass.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. It's insanity. And
it's all getting charged to you.
And they're
not the ones paying it. You're the one paying it.
We've never seen data like this. And to me, it's so egregious. This is why I don't understand how outside is not on fire. I don't think people really grasp what is actually happening right now. It's never thought I'd see this in my lifetime. Never thought I'd see one of these things in my lifetime. But to be able to aggregate the data of what is actually affecting people's lives and harming them, it is not only that, the corruption involved and all these regulations that allow all the corruption that's involved and how expensive some things in our life are, like healthcare and education. And you can see it's largely due to this massive, corrupt, fraudulent government that no one voted for.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about democracy dying? It's been dead.
Yeah,
it's been dead.
That's not democracy, and it's not a constitutional republic. It's not any of those things.
I'll see you later.
All right.
That's all I got.
There you go. Good job. Could have said it better myself. I read this interesting article in the Washington Post behind the Doge outrage machine, and that's an interesting article to find in the Washington Post, an opinion piece making fun of all these Democrats that are upset about Doge. And they make a really good point here that I've heard other people talk about, but we haven't really talked about it. I don't know if you knew about it, Charlie, but they start off saying, imagine if the president of the United States announced he was forming a, quote, SWAT team of private sector tech experts and deploying them across agencies, in some cases for 6 months, in some cases for 2 years, fixing outdated systems. That's what Barack Obama did when he created the U.S. Digital Service, an agency inside the White House made up of tech talent from companies such as Facebook and Google, including young engineers who served as presidential innovation fellows tasked to be change makers working at the highest levels of the government. He said they're having a great time. Let's see. What's
funny is the guys from the Pod Save America podcast who worked in the Obama administration.
I saw that.
They're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we could have done this. This could have been our win.
Well,
but you didn't.
Because the interesting part is that the U.S. Digital Service that Obama created, where these people could go agency to agency, going through the code, going through the systems, the data, and trying to modernize or whatever it is they were trying to do, this U.S. Digital Service is Doge. Trump's executive order renamed the U.S. Digital Service to the Department of Government Efficiency. Mm-hmm. And so they are using all of the authorities that the U.S. Digital Service had under Obama and under Trump and under Biden. And so that's pretty interesting. So yeah, that's him changing it over to Doge. They say no one sued Obama to stop his self-described SWAT team from getting access to U.S. government data systems. No member of Congress introduced a Taxpayer Data Protection Act to prevent the president's tech wonderkins from doing their work. No one did that. It was just totally fine when that happened. And so in this article, they go through, what Doge is trying to find and what they're trying to do. And one of the things they mentioned that I didn't know, he says, for decades, American taxpayers have been getting fleeced. Last March, the Government Accountability Office issued a report in which it estimated that the federal government had spent a whopping $236 billion on improper payments during the previous fiscal year, including $175 billion in payments to deceased individuals for those no longer eligible for government programs, $44 billion in unknown payments, meaning they had no idea where the payments went. They just don't know. To put that in perspective, $236 billion is nearly 3 times the entire budget of DHS, nearly 3 times the budget of the Education Department, and twice what the federal government spent on infrastructure projects that year. It's the equivalent to more than half of all corporate taxes in the federal government that the federal government took in that year, all wasted, lost, or stolen through fraud.
They knew this last year.
Huh?
They knew this last year, or Doge exposed this?
No, this came out in March is when they released
Last
this.
March
of last year.
Yeah.
When they released this. Worse, the Government Accountability Office reports that in some fiscal years, waste and fraud reached as high as $521 billion. $521 billion in 1 year in waste and fraud. And that it has cost taxpayers more than $2.4 trillion over the last 2 decades. Now, I clicked on that link because I thought that was pretty interesting right there. And I don't remember if we talked about it when this originally came out. I assume it would have been something we talked about. But the GAO says 2018 to 2022 data show federal government loses an estimated $233 billion to $521 billion annually to fraud based on various risk environments.
So basically, they lose 2021 Elon Musk's net worth to 2026 Elon Musk's net worth annually.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
All of it gone.
This is, when Doge comes in, they say they want to look at the systems, they want to look at the root code and all that, and they want to see how these payments are being coded in there. The different categories of payments and different columns there. What was this for? All that kind of stuff. And they said that when they went into, say, the Treasury, they just found a whole bunch of payments that had nothing next to them. Like, what was it for? No one coded it. Wasn't flagged. Wasn't nothing.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
I dream of a day where we have a government that takes in trillions of dollars and spends it on things. We don't know where it goes. Well, where does it go, sir? Nobody knows.
So I love the fact that the Washington Post actually published this. And I like the fact that it was at the top, close to the top of their page where I could actually see it. But the great point in here is that no one got mad when Obama sent his, what he called a SWAT team, around to the different agencies to get into their systems and see how they were handling their payments and all that kind of stuff.
They probably found a bunch of stuff.
They might have.
And
I don't know.
And they shut it down.
Yeah. No, it's still going. I don't know. They didn't do anything with it. I don't know what they've been doing with it.
Yeah.
No one got mad about that. But now even the GAO says up to $521 billion in fraud in a year. 1 year.
And the other thing that should make you mad about this is that the whole left's argument is that we don't tax people enough.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So, we'll lose $500 billion. We don't know where it even goes, but give us more money because we're so responsible with it.
And then they'll take the push to find this fraud and end it. Anyway, let's just be safe and call it $300 billion. And we're just talking about fraud. We're not talking about waste and abuse. We're talking about fraud right now. They'll say that, well, the only reason Elon Musk wants to go in there and find what he calls fraud is because he wants to pay less in taxes. And so they'd rather just raise the taxes on them. You know, if we need $300 billion more dollars, well, that just needs to come from the wealthiest top 1% or top 1.1%. But even the government's own accountability office says, you guys are paying out that much in fraudulent payments. The money is there. You're paying dead people. You're paying people that don't exist, never existed. You're paying people that are on do not pay lists that you're still paying them. And there's anywhere from 233 to 521 billion that you're paying out. I mean, we just found a pretty good way of saving money right there. And they don't want to do it. They don't want to look into it.
By the way, that's your $2 trillion over 10 years.
There it is. On the low end.
Oh, yeah.
On the low, $2 to $5 trillion.
Yeah.
In fraud.
In fraud.
That's not even all the stuff we don't think they should be doing because the government has no business doing those things. We're just talking about fraud.
Fraud? You want to talk about fraud? Let's talk about fraud.
Oh, God. And they don't want to look into it. Instead of talking about this, they're talking about how scary it is that Big Balls is looking into the numbers. Too scary for Big Balls to have access to the system. You just can't have it. Can't have those big balls in there. Too dangerous. And no one wants to talk about the actual fraud that's happening.
That's so nuts. This is so nuts.
I know.
And I think the only good news, is I really do think that the majority of Americans have this BS meter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can at least count on most of the Republicans and the people in the middle. Considering the Democratic Party now has a 32% approval rate, and they're continuing down the same destructive path. It seems as if the majority of Americans appear to be reasonable and are pissed off about what's happening, that we could actually see some effectual change. And they're not buying the insane story that the woke left is telling them. They're not buying it. They're not buying it anymore. That's evidenced by the fact that Trump won again.
Yeah.
Someone you thought, Nate, would never be president again.
That's
the
true.
American people said nay.
I said it several
times.
times.
This is our best chance at ending the woke mind virus. You turned a liberal tech entrepreneur, the richest man in the world, over to a conservative. Not conservative, but he voted for a Republican. I think the times might be changing for a little bit.
We'll see.
My only thing is how much of it will stick, because I think we got to a point during COVID and inflation where enough people were being affected in their own backyard, like the Amish voting for the first time.
Yeah.
that it affected them in a way where they're like, okay, now we got to do something. So how long will these types of things last? But it does give me hope. I think it gives me hope for a more free future, for a freer future.
We could see that in response to something like what we went through during COVID, because we just had RFK confirmed today. RFK is a response to COVID. He's a response to what we all went through during COVID. We all got so sick. The majority of the American people got sick of it. All the lies, the gaslighting, lying about masks and origin stories and transmission and protection of the vaccine, and there not being any side effects to the vaccine and stuff like that. That woke a lot of people up. It was so ridiculous. A lot of people woke up.
Mm-hmm.
RFK getting confirmed today is a response to the COVID regime. It is an FU to that entire thing.
I gotta say, we're still suffering from it, though.
Yeah, I mean,
monetarily,
still going through it right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But there could be a government regulatory and efficiency response to what we went through during COVID also, and over the last few years. We'll see if that happens. Something like Bernie Sanders said, Elon Musk is planning to pay for his tax cut with your health care. Donald Trump and his Republican friends want $5 trillion in tax breaks for the wealthy and corporations, paid for by huge cuts in Medicaid and other programs that working families desperately need. Now, let me tell you about this $5 trillion number. This is interesting. So when he says $5 trillion in tax breaks for the wealthy and corporations, what he means is a continuation of the current tax policies that we have right now. It is estimated
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years. It is estimated that what we call the Trump tax cuts will add to the deficit $4.7 trillion over the next 10 years. Now, I would say that...
well, we just found that $470 billion in fraud.
Yeah, exactly.
We just talked about it. Balanced. It's balanced.
It's already balanced right now. Get rid of the fraud. It pays for the tax cut. There you go. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Just in fraud. Okay, that's why this stuff is so important, by the way.
We're talking about fraud.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me that you would call... Now, if they don't raise taxes, get this. This is the switcheroo. This is the gaslighting that happens. If they don't raise taxes, that's a tax cut. Just so you guys know.
Yeah.
And so if we don't raise taxes to those higher levels, here's what it's going to cost us in this much money, to which my argument would be, well, how much does it cost us if we don't raise it even further? Why don't we just go to 100%? You know, if we don't go to 100%, it's going to cost us $23 trillion.
You know what we should do? We should just give 100% of our money to the government and then let them send us semi-checks every week. And everybody gets the same amount. Doesn't matter what job you do. And eggs cost the same. And life, that's what these people dream of, which is just absurd. It never works. It's never worked in any society. And you can always make that argument. It's never enough. You know, why not make it 100%? Why not pay people $100 an hour? Why not just continue on your ridiculous idea? And the reason why you can't do that is because eventually it falls apart.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't last very long at all. But we do have our first official Elon Musk victim, by the way. He killed his first person over the last few weeks. I don't know if you saw that story, but a 71-year-old woman and others, I guess there's more. It's the pandemic of Musk right now, have died.
So blood is on his hands.
After oxygen supply was cut off, he strangled her. And hospitals shuttered after Donald Trump announced a freeze on aid funding. So a 71-year-old woman. Now, you might wonder, first off, that hospital didn't have like another week's supply of oxygen in there. There was just nothing anyone could do about this. You couldn't go to one of those places where you buy oxygen tanks and supply this person with oxygen so they don't die.
Yeah.
There's just no way that this would have worked at all.
Did he freeze oxygen?
And then you find out why that was harder, and that's because this person is in Thailand. First off, and then I'm like, well, why should I care about that? I mean, it's sad. You know, it's really sad.
You're against death.
I am against death, but I don't really see how it was my job to work in order to give this person money so they could get oxygen tanks. I just don't think it was in Thailand. Yes, but that is what happened. The 71-year-old woman has died after her oxygen supply was cut off when the United States announced a freeze on aid funding. Pikalau, a refugee from Myanmar living in a displacement camp in neighboring Thailand, died 4 days after she was discharged from a USAID-funded healthcare facility operated by the International Rescue Committee, IRC. She's thought to be one of the first people to have died as a direct result of Washington's decision to freeze all funding for aid projects for 90 days. And so she died. And I want to ask you, Charlie, how do you sleep at night with this death on your hands?
Well, first of all,
you supported this woman dying.
First of all, she's 71, so she's in her.
She was almost there anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying she was almost there. Second of all, we have no idea why she needed oxygen. We have no idea whether or not, even if she stayed on oxygen, would she have even lived?
Yeah.
Because just because you get oxygen doesn't mean you're automatically going to live. You know, like there's other components to life.
She had been frequently sent to the hospital in the last 3 years.
Just oxygen.
As she was dependent on a supply of oxygen.
Now, why is that?
I don't know.
Was she a smoker? Did she work in the mines?
Are you victim blaming right now? The mines. Which mines? The one where they process retirement for the government?
I could be. Could be. She was in there breathing in that dust.
Listen, it's sad. It is sad. But the question is, now, the first point I wanted to make was that they did not mention that a 71-year-old, or was it, what do you call someone from Myanmar? Myanmarian? Myanmarian?
Mm-hmm.
That a 71-year-old Myanmarian in Thailand died after oxygen supply was cut off. That wouldn't have made for such a juicy post, you know? When you see the 71-year-old woman died after the U.S. government stopped supplying this kind of funding, the freeze on aid funding, you would think it was maybe someone in Alabama or something like that, you know, didn't get their oxygen or whatever. But of course, it was in Thailand, as you would assume.
Not only that, it looks like she was discharged from the hospital, and they didn't cite no funding as a reason for discharge.
Oh, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't lie about that kind of thing.
She died 4 days after she was discharged from a healthcare facility.
Well, she was sent home after they received a stop work order in late January. That's why she was sent home. But did it? I don't know. We'll have to dig in a little bit more of this. I guess my main point on this I wanted to make is that this kind of thing, this is kind of the start of it, but there will be no shortage of stories. Imagine, all you libertarians out there, as you want to cut any kind of government funding, there's going to be a story associated with it because there's someone receiving that money. There's going to be a person in Africa that dies of AIDS because you want to cut this off. Or now there's this old woman in Thailand.
We stopped the $50 million worth of condoms.
Because we stopped funding the oxygen supply. We literally cut off her air supply and she ended up dying. And then those stories are also going to make it to the U.S. There's going to be some sad story about someone in the U.S. that couldn't get whatever it was. Maybe someone, Meals on Wheels, gets a shakeup, you know, and they have less wheels. And they're not able to supply some of those meals that they take on wheels to people. There's going to be a story about that. And for some people, that's going to work. Now, a lot of people, since if it doesn't affect them directly, they'll probably be okay. You know, they'll probably be fine with it, especially if it stays in other countries. But you got to be ready to defend this kind of stuff. Like, it's not my job to pay for this. If you want to donate voluntarily to a charity that provides...
And it doesn't mean that it's not sad.
No.
Like when, you know, I don't care how old you are, when you die, it's sad.
Still sad?
It's sad for these family members.
Sure.
But you can't say that like the direct correlation is the fact that the government of the United States didn't steal enough money from its constituents.
It could be directly
then funnel
correlated.
it over to someone else.
It could be, though.
Yeah.
Say it is. You still have to defend your right to keep your money, even though that person's going to die because of it. You have to. That's what I'm going to do anyway. If you actually care about it that much, go donate to a charity. There's, you know, I mean, we could look it up. There's got to be hundreds of charities that are working in Africa trying to fight AIDS and bring water and all kinds of stuff, whatever it is they're trying to do over there. I don't know. Probably a lot of stuff they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you really care about it, then go donate to it. I donate to Care International or whatever it's called, something like, or I'm getting scammed. I don't know which one it is. They're the lady outside of Lowe's.
Turns out you're donating to USAID.
Yeah. That's probably what it is. I gotta look at that. I gotta look and see. They're like, they caught me outside of Lowe's. They're like, have you ever heard of a care package? Ever heard of a care package before? And they were like, well, that comes from us. That's what we do. We send care packages to people. And I was like, well, I like the idea of a care package.
You're like, well, good for you.
Yeah, package of caring over to someone.
Yeah.
And so I give them some money every month. You know?
How do you package up care? They figured
you
it out.
give it to them. Care International. All right. This is not, they didn't endorse this or whatever. But anyhow, I don't think I have anything else on the list that we have to talk about today. The gaslighting is going to transition from a different kind of gaslighting. There was a gaslighting that said everything is okay, everything is perfect, everything is fine. And now it's going to go to,
And if you're complaining about it, you're the problem.
you're a liar. You're
Yeah.
spreading misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's going to switch to everything is awful. Everything is terrible. This all the numbers are a lie, and everybody is dying because the 0.1% are not paying their fair share in taxes. And if we could only just tax people more, this person wouldn't have died. And the richest oligarch on the planet has caused the richest known oligarch on the planet. There's probably people got more money than that, but has caused all of these people to die. And capitalism is evil.
Yeah.
That's literally that's where it's got to go this whole time. So you just got to be ready for it.
You know, you've traveled abroad, especially to Africa and places like that. How many people die just because they're looking for water? And is it America's fault because we didn't send USAID out to these parts of Africa where people are dying just from not having water?
Every person,
and that's our fault.
Every person we're not forcing you to help right now that dies is your fault. So a lot of people die every year. You know, I literally had a woman holding an infant baby beg me for water.
She would have traded you the baby.
She would have given me the baby for
water.
sure.
Yeah.
And I never had anyone beg me for water. Like I had people on the street corner here in Nashville.
Did you sign her baby?
Huh?
Did you sign her
Oh,
baby?
yeah, I told
her
she's not going to want to wash that off at all. I'd never been begged for water before. And we had a whole case of water. And they said we couldn't give it to her. So
who? The military?
Well, yeah. It was it was a security contractor company.
So that's your government killing these people.
They said we couldn't give it to her.
That's what it is.
You know,
you guys see firsthand experience at killing these people.
They wanted her to die. They went there to not give people water. In order to kill them.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Makes
we've gone off the rails here. Let's go.
All right, y'all. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share the show with a friend, a family member, or foe. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Go to GodHatesFeds.com or joingml.com. Either one of those places is going to take you to the Fed Haters Club, a place where we join together. And apparently,
we hate feds.
We are the cause of 71-year-old Thailandic deaths. And so if you want to be part of that group.
Her name is Pikalau.
Pikalau. If you want to be part of that group.
It's RIP.
Go to those places I told you. Visit the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support this show, because it does cost money, not for oxygen. Go to your money is better spent not on oxygen. It's better spent.
No, it's on us.
Fighting for liberty.
So we can tell you to not give people oxygen.
So do that.
Yeah.
And if you do.
She can't take your money anymore. She's gone.
Then we'll be back again tomorrow. Hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty. God.